I remember the sound before I remembered my own name. The motor of the boat grinding through the water, growing weaker, smaller, as though someone were slowly shutting a door between us and sealing me on the wrong side. My eyelids felt glued shut, my throat dry like I'd swallowed dust, and every thud of my heartbeat echoed sluggishly through my skull. When I finally managed to roll onto my side, sand clung to my cheek. My wrists burned with a raw sting that told me they'd been tied. I forced myself upright, swaying, fighting the dizziness clawing at me. And then I heard her. Her voice drifted from the water, sharp, bright, and viciously alive. "Goodbye, loser. You'll never see me again." The words hit like a slap, cutting through the fog in my head. She stood at the edge of the boat, lifting her hand in a casual wave, the kind you'd give a neighbor as you toss the trash out. My wife. My partner of 7 years. The woman whose smile used to feel like home. The boat spun away, her silhouette shrinking until it blurred into the horizon. The shock didn't crash into me all at once. It seeped in, quiet and cold, like a tide rising around someone too numb to move. But the betrayal, that arrived instantly. A precise, brutal punch to the ribs. I wasn't seasick. I wasn't dehydrated. I'd been drugged. Drugged by the same woman who used to trace circles on my back to help me fall asleep. People ask how you miss the signs. But you never miss them. You just soften them, excuse them, bend them into something tolerable because the alternative is too painful. The late-night work calls she pulled away for. The money missing from our account that she blamed on the bank's system error. The way she started looking at me as though she was mentally rewriting her life and trying to erase me from the draft. I held on to the memories. Road trips where we laughed until our stomachs hurt, rainy afternoons tangled under blankets, whispered promises of always and forever. That history was the anchor I clung to, and it became the very blade she used to cut me loose. The island stripped me bare. Hunger doesn't care about pride. Thirst doesn't negotiate with denial. Fear doesn't let you lie to yourself. I learned quickly that survival was the only truth left. Days blurred into each other as I scavenged for anything that didn't want to kill me. When a waterproof bag washed ashore one morning, wedged between rocks like it had been placed there by fate itself, I almost didn't open it. But I did. And inside, neatly arranged, was the answer to every question I'd been too afraid to ask. A printed itinerary for a country we'd never talked about moving to. A bank receipt showing our savings transferred into an account with a name I didn't recognize. Divorce papers, and signed by me, but already stamped with her looping signature. She hadn't planned to leave me. She'd planned to erase me, drug me, dump me on this strip of land. Take the money. Start fresh. No argument. No loose ends. But she didn't understand me as well as she thought. I don't die quietly. A year on the island took me apart and rebuilt me with sharper edges. I learned how to track animals by the bend of a broken twig. I built traps from branches and stones. I found underground streams by listening to the hum beneath the earth. I cataloged plants until I could survive the seasons without guessing which leaves would poison me. I built a shelter strong enough to stand against storms that tore trees from their roots. Every sunrise was another day she lost the game she thought she'd already won. In the silence, my mind became my weapon. I replayed every moment with her, stripped of illusion. Each lie she fed me, each smile she engineered. Eventually the pain cooled and hardened into something clean, something precise. Revenge became a calculation, not a craving. So when a rusted freighter appeared one morning, crawling across the horizon like a long-forgotten promise, I didn't hesitate. I knew exactly who I would be once my feet touched its deck. They stared at me, crew members, authorities later, reporters, lawyers, cops. A missing man walking into the world again is a miracle, and a headline rolled into one. I gave them enough to satisfy questions, never enough to delay my plans. The first place I went wasn't home, because it wasn't home anymore. She had already moved into her new life with him, the man she drained our accounts for. A quick search gave me their address, their photos, their smiles. They believed they were untouchable, already rewriting the story with me edited out. But my year alone had been an education. I didn't confront them. I didn't shout. I didn't stalk. I became methodical. I gathered every record she'd left behind. Every transfer. Every forged signature. Every deleted email she'd forgotten lived in backups. Every GPS ping from the boat she'd lost. Her betrayal had been sloppy. Mine wouldn't be. I began with silence. Anonymous tips to authorities. Evidence packages sent to his company. A meticulously crafted request for a bank audit. Affidavits from maritime experts confirming attempted murder, each signed under oath. Their world didn't break in one blow. It cracked slowly, beautifully, exactly the way I intended. His company suspended him. Her accounts froze. Investigators began knocking on doors. She couldn't answer a single question without revealing the truth she'd spent so long burying. And then came the video. I'd recovered it from her cloud storage, a grainy clip recorded by her own phone. Her laughing, her shouting goodbye as I lay unconscious. I edited it with every receipt, email, timestamp, and signature. Not dramatic. Not flashy. Just undeniable. I released it anonymously but strategically. Friends. Family. Colleagues. And then the internet, where things never die. By the time the arrest warrant was issued, she was already a ghost. People crossed the street to avoid her. Coworkers wouldn't speak to her. Even he, the man she threw everything away for, deleted every photo of them and quietly disappeared from her life. I hadn't planned to see her again. But life enjoys symmetry. She walked into the police station the same morning I went to finalize my statement. She looked hollow, deflated, as if someone had drained all the air from her. When she whispered, "Why? Why would you do this to me?" her voice cracked like thin glass. I stepped close enough for her to see what she created. "I didn't do anything to you," I said. "You did it to yourself. I just made sure everyone saw it." She collapsed as the officers led her away. And for the first time since the island, I truly breathed. People say revenge leaves you empty, but they're wrong. It leaves clarity. It leaves space where lies once lived. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not broken. I'm not haunted by what she stole. Because in the end, I took something too, something she never imagined she'd lose. Her future. Her image. Her comfort. Her freedom. She abandoned me on an island to die alone. I left her stranded in the ruins of her own choices.